People get hay fever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What triggers you?
Flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Hay.
There was a girl in my primary school who had such bad hay fever that if you, and this doesn't feel like it could be true, but I remember it being true. If you threw like a blade of grass at her, she would sneeze. And we'd chase her around the playground and throw grass at her, and she'd go, "Stop it!"
Well, that's...
And we'd throw the grass, and as soon as the grass hit her, she'd go, and
I find that incredibly triggering. That's really brutal.
yeah,
That's ableist bullying.
yeah,
Mine was genuinely terrible when I was a child.
really.
I used to, because it always used to hit during exam season
Okay,
in school, and because I'd be so sniffly and sneeze so much, I'd frequently get nosebleeds. And they used to make me do my exams in isolation because it was too distracting and disgusting for the rest of people to concentrate on their GCSEs.
Did you bleed on? Bled on the papers
Everywhere. I'd be like, achoo! And then just blood. Like,
Could you do it in like a thematic way, like discuss the violence in Richard III, and you have like drips of blood going down the paper?
That would have been good.
That would be good.
They didn't see it that way. I don't think they recognized my creative juices at that point.
Yeah.
They were like, just hit the exam criteria, please. And I was like...
How do you feel about nosebleeds in films?
What do you mean?
Well, I feel like it's sort of like a... You see them, they're a trope in films, right? Nosebleeds in films.
Well, they're a trope in Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Is when someone's horny.
Oh, when they're horny, they get a nosebleed.
If you watch anime, you'll see the creepy old man whenever a girl in a bikini walks past, he'll be like, "Ah!" And like his nose will bleed loads.
Wow. Okay.
And,
I don't think that happens to me.
Well,
Is that linked? I feel like surely the blood is going away from your head.
yeah, you would think, and also not a sexy thing.
What, nosebleeds?
Yeah,
No.
no one's like, oh yeah, that guy's full of blood.
Maybe it's just the intensity, such intense horniness that they just can't contain themselves. What is it? So I feel like a nosebleed is like when someone's had a sort of some kind of procedure done to them in a movie, and you're like, has everything gone okay? And then you think it's gone okay, and then their nose starts bleeding, and you're like, uh-oh, things are bad.
Yeah, it's also psychic powers for some reason always give people nosebleeds.
Oh, yeah. When someone has psychic powers, they're using...
and they're like, you're pushing it too hard, number 11. She's like...
I guess it's like any time there's intensity going on inside the person that you can't show because you can't put cameras in people.
Yeah.
Or you can, but generally they don't like doing that in films very much.
Maybe it's
like,
a link.
How can we show that they're having an intense time? Let's give them a nosebleed.
Let's make the internal external. Which I suppose in Japanese thing, maybe that's what they're doing. They're like, if there's blood, they'll think blood. Blood goes into the penis. Erections are blood.
Okay. See, I don't think...
Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Yeah. Do you think blood is sexy?
No.
No. I wonder how common blood... You hear people talk about... Anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
All right.
It really does gross me out. Like, I'm not grossed out by blood. I'm not going to faint if I see someone bleeding. But the idea of being into blood in a sexy way.
Yeah, I don't think it's like people really into that.
Blood play.
That's not like mainstream.
No, it's not mainstream. Having missionary sex is mainstream.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I'd say most people like when most ladies, it's their time of the month. They're often like, I don't fancy it, or they feel a bit like self-conscious, which would imply blood is not like a sexy thing. Which
I wonder if blood would be considered more of a sexy thing if it wasn't part of like
wounding
a monthly. No. I was going to say if periods weren't a thing.
Oh,
right? Because then bodily functions are bleh.
But I don't know.
I mean, periods are not. I'm not saying periods are yucky, guys. Before people write in and say,
well, I think
but bodily functions, all bodily functions, sweating, coughing.
But
everything.
coming is a bodily function.
Yeah.
And people are well like, yeah, coming.
Yeah, coming is directly
Yeah.
related to sex, though.
Crying, yeah, crying's not hot.
Crying is no.
Not generally. Some people like it. Not generally.
But yeah, if
cried,
yeah.
me too.
Yeah. I almost cried watching that Kihei Kwan accepting a Golden Globe speech that we were watching before we started recording the podcast.
Oh yeah, the Oscars.
Yeah, the Oscars has just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, what are your sort of opinions on the Oscars generally?
I don't bother with the Oscars normally. It's so long. It's boring.
Emilia Perez got loads of nominations, and I don't know anyone who's seen Emilia Perez, but everyone online says it's absolute trash.
Oh, really?
Like, it's been universally panned, and it was like tipped to be the winner of Best Picture. It was like that had the best odds at the bookies as being Best Picture, and there was like, and I don't really know why. Definitely there was something in the idea, because it's about a trans woman who's a crime lord in Mexico or something. It's made by a French guy who knows nothing about Mexico and apparently got like all of the information wrong.
They were speaking Portuguese.
Yeah. And they, I think maybe it was this thing as like, oh, let's be good and show our solidarity with trans people by giving Best Picture to
an actually bad film.
to a bad film about a trans
Let's ignore all the historical good films involving trans characters.
And then the main actress in the movie, a bunch of her old tweets came out where she's saying like racist stuff and homophobic stuff and whatever, and suddenly it totally shifted and everyone's like, well, we can't reward this movie now, and she refused to like apologize, and everyone was like, well, she was going to win Best Actress and now she's not, and blah blah blah. And it's just so ridiculous that this film that everyone seems to agree is bad was like going to win, and then even more ridiculous that then like a news story made them change their mind. Like, maybe if she'd, to be fair, I've not seen the tweets, but like, you know, maybe if the director was a serial killer, then be like, okay, maybe let's not give it to this guy. But when one of the actors has done some bad tweets, to be like, well, this isn't going to win now, and just it just all feels so made up and stupid. And especially now that, like, you know, the internet exists, and it's so easy to see like a Rotten Tomatoes score or a Letterboxd score, and so easy to see what people think of things. These kind of official awards just feel so ridiculous. But it's interesting comparing them to the comedy world, because in the comedy world, we have Edinburgh each year, and then we have the Edinburgh Awards, and they feel a bit like the comedy Oscars.
Exactly the same,
But I guess the thing about those is because there's not like 100 competing awards, because America, they've got like the SAG Awards, the Golden Globes, all these different things. And sometimes it's different people win, sometimes the same people win. It's like, oh, it's all meaningless. But in stand-up, because we've got these one big award that people care about, it kind of feels like, ooh, that is important. That is the right one.
Well, but it's also so dumb, because it sort of just goes with every creative field. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can't be comparing art because it's, you know, it exists in its own world." And
I love comparing
literally, it's all anyone does and all anyone cares about is comparing to decide which one is the best. And you're like, well, this is completely at odds with what we tell artists of all sorts. It's just so dumb. But it is. I mean, it's fun to compare things, but when you're comparing them to be like, this is the best, it's just a dumb. I don't know. It's just like, I like this one, you like that one. Just leave it at that. It's like star systems really annoy me, because again, they're also like influenced by their context. So then you have these things where it's like, if the same reviewer 5 years apart is giving certain types of films 4 and 5s that back in 5 years ago you would have given 1s and 2s. Right. And you're like, okay, so the time you get reviewed impacts how good your movie is.
Yeah. I always think it's funny with like restaurants on Google Maps. it's like 1 to 5 stars, and it's like, well, here's a Michelin star restaurant that was sort of slightly below my expectations. So I'll give it 3 stars.
Yeah.
And here's my like local builder's cafe
Yeah.
that gave me like a £3 omelette that was surprisingly nice. So I'll give that 5 stars.
Yeah.
And then the builder's cafe is better than fucking Nobu or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that Michelin star? I don't know. I've not been to Nobu. I'm too cool. I go to cooler places than Nobu. What's the Nobu signature dish, Luke?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
It's the miso black cod, apparently.
That's the one.
It's nice. Why am I talking about that?
I don't know.
Oscars happened. We basically don't care about it. Nora won Best Picture. I really liked Nora. I think that's a really good shout.
Yeah.
It's
that also feels like a movie that's not really in much political. It's not a very political movie, I would say. It's kind of like a character based.
Yeah, it's a character piece. Sean Baker, I think, is quite sort of apolitical.
Could exist in any time. Like it's quite
guy.
Like, only the modern world, but wouldn't fit in like medieval times. But kind of timeless within a set period of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
You get me?
I think you're saying it's profoundly well, Luke.
Yes, thank you.
Kieran Culkin won Best Supporting Actor. He was great. I'm happy about that. Zoe Saldana won Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress. Mikey Madison won Best Actress for Anora. Zoe Saldana won it for Emilia Perez, and she seems to be the only person who we're still allowed to like respect out of the whole Emilia Perez thing. It's so weird. It's so stupid. Annoying. Adrian Brody won
Best Actor,
and
I mean, he is a good actor.
Gave a really, really sincere speech, which it was nice, but also like a bit sincere for me.
Tell us a joke.
Actors are a bit sincere. I mean, Kieran Culkin. I like Kieran Culkin. And I like his shtick where he's like, "I'm not an actor and I don't give a fuck."
Yeah,
and I like that more. But then even that feels like he's doing that so. It's such a like intentional thing he's doing that he's like, I don't give a fuck, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I try and avoid seeing actors in public now or any other setting other than them acting.
Right.
Because it completely taints how I see them. And like I've gone off actors purely because I've watched an interview with them, and then any movie I see them in, I'm like, fuck that guy. He's a cunt. All I remember is that thing he said, that annoying thing he said in that interview.
I don't like him. You can't believe he's a nice veterinarian because you saw him tell an annoying story on Conan.
Literally. I'm like, and also I find it's almost the invert, whereas like, for example, someone like Jesse Eisenberg, I never really liked, but it's because he plays a lot of unlikable characters really well. Yeah. Then I watched an interview with him and I was like, oh, this guy's actually pretty cool. He's like pretty funny and
I think
weird.
he's more self-aware and interesting than his characters are. I think his characters are clearly the worst side of his personality, which can be annoying. But
I'm like, I don't want to be grappling with that. I just want to be like, you are an actor, you do your thing. If anything, I'm like, actors should not be famous. Yeah, should just appear in one movie, be gone. That's what I think.
I do like when actors get old and they stop giving a shit and start like.
Marlon Brando.
I was just thinking of like Brian Cox, who was like talking shit about Jeremy Strong, and was like annoyed with the writers that they spoiler for I won't spoil it, but that something happened to his character as from his perspective too early in Succession. Yeah, when they're like, oh yeah, I'm like 82. I've got a handful of years left alive and a smaller handful of years left professionally. I'll say whatever the fuck I want. Especially these old actors who are from back in the day when, like, there was no media training because there was no interviews with actors. You just did the job and then went home and...
Christopher Lee's got a few really good ones of those. Where it's just like, they're so... arrogant. It's like acting against a mirror. What am I to do with these childish folly? Yeah. You're like, yes.
Oh,
You're incredible.
I love ye olde roasts.
Yeah.
Uh, well, have you seen anything good this week, Luke?
I've seen plenty good, hella good shit.
Yeah.
I've gone on a real 70s flex.
Yeah.
I watched another Friedkin movie,
Right.
and it was really good. I watched Sorcerer.
So all I know about Sorcerer is it does not contain a sorcerer.
Yeah,
It
spoiler
is
alert.
not a fantasy
No.
wizard film.
Some might say a poorly named movie, but not a poorly done movie at all. It's really intense. It's really
Okay,
good.
what's Sorcerer about?
It's about 4 dudes. It's a very blokey movie.
Yeah.
It's about 4.
Not like you to watch a really blokey film, Luke.
I like ladies' movies.
You like ladies' movies, and yet when I was like, should we review The Last Showgirl this week? You were like, how about we watch an old film with men in it about men? I don't like the idea. There's something about the title, The Last Showgirl.
This is a really gross
appealing to me.
misrepresentation of my character.
I think you I've hit on something, and you've got some self-reflection to do, Luke.
Well, anyway, look, Sorcerer is a good movie. It's about 4...
Does it pass the Bechdel test?
Absolutely not. I don't even think there is a woman in it.
Okay, we got a new version of the Bechdel test for the films Luke's been watching. It's called Was a Woman in It?
That's why I lost a star. There was 1 woman featuring. 4 stars for me. No, it's great. It's super intense. It's like about 4 men from around the globe who they're basically all escaping some sort of horrendous thing that's happened in their lives. And they all end up in this unspecified South American town that is just the worst place you've ever seen. It's like an industrial mining town, but it's just run by like sort of really shady mafioso / business people who are just treating the local residents like essentially slaves. And it's a horrible ghetto. And then they are all trying to get out of this place because they're all hiding in it from their past or whatever, and they all want to get out. And they get offered this job to move this dynamite that has been sat in a box for years and years and years, and so it's incredibly unstable. So if anything knocks it, it will explode. And they just have to drive this dynamite from this shitty village to this other village where they need to use the dynamite, and it's crazy tense.
Okay, so what I'm picturing is like Speed with Keanu Reeves, but gentle instead of fast.
It's slow. It's slow. It is Speed if it was slow. Yeah. Absolutely nailed it. Which was the original title, but then they thought, what about Sorcerer?
Speed but slow was the original
because
title.
Freakin' had done so much cocaine at that point, he was like, why not Sorcerer? And everyone's like, I guess.
That is a mad idea.
You're the Exorcist guy.
For, like, you have movies where there's a scene where, you know, maybe they have to walk across a rickety bridge and it's like 10 seconds of quite extreme tension. But a bold choice to be like, what if walking across a rickety bridge was the whole movie?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. The key scene is them trying to drive these trucks over
across
the most rickety bridge you've ever
ricketyest
seen.
fucking bridge you ever did see. Wow.
But it's so intense. It's so, and like the trucks they're driving are so shit, and they've had to like build them themselves just out of like scrap metal that's in the crappy ghetto village.
Yeah.
So it's just got this tension the whole way through where you're like, because there's 4 of them, and they've sort of all been given reasonable amounts of backstories apart from one of the characters. So you kind of aren't sure who the main character is. And they say
is it possible that there's multiple main characters?
No, there is a main character.
But it's a secret.
Kind of, yeah.
Wait, why would I don't even understand what this means.
But I'm just saying they give a lot of the characters backstories.
Yeah.
A lot of backstories.
But
so that then you don't know, because
you don't know who's going to be alive at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what the thing? Okay.
Yeah. But that normally is done really badly in movies because you're like, well, we're spending so much time with this guy. He's obviously going to be the main character.
I'm wondering how it is that in a movie like this, and I don't want any spoilers because I quite want to watch this, but it sounds like they're picked off one by one, like in a horror movie. But when the threat is loads of dynamite. It's quite hard to slowly pick them off one at a time. I guess that one falls off the rickety bridge. Don't tell me, but I'm right, aren't
But
I?
the whole movie is you sitting there being like, when is this going to explode?
Yeah.
Who's going to get exploded? Are they all going to get exploded? And yeah, I just think it's very well done. And it's very, I don't know, it's just gritty sort of 70s nastiness.
And when the sort of when it's set up, the premise,
Yeah.
how believable is it that these four men simply must drive the most fragile crate of dynamite in the world across incredibly rough terrain for a very long time? Is this got a very... Does it make entirely make sense as to why they need to do this?
The village they're in is so shit. It's like they're in an incredibly dangerous... They all have to work. They have to sort of labor in these mines. And they're essentially slaves. And
stick me down them mines.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the mines, baby.
But they're basically offered enough money to leave. So they're like, yeah, it's either stay in this place where I might die anyway because the labor's so dangerous and fucked up, or I just do this one incredibly dangerous job.
Old dynamite across an entire country and I'll give you enough money to retire.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this is why it's kind of good, because it's like there are people who live lives that are more or less analogous to that, like rig workers and those sort of really heavy duty industry jobs.
Oh yeah, they
actually
make quite a lot of money, but they're like, there's
it's like, don't get caught
pretty
in the
decent
machine.
chance you'll get slapped by a wave into the ocean. Yeah,
So
those oil rig
real...
videos are terrifying.
Yeah, so it's sort of, it all harkens to that sort of stuff. It is a remake of an older movie, which is the same premise, but apparently which I haven't seen, but apparently it's very different because all these backstories aren't given in the same way. And all the characters in it are like pretty unlikable, horrible people, but you're rooting for them anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just very tense. And then it gets really weird at the end. It's really sort of trippy and bizarre, and you kind of don't feel stable in the whole movie.
Yeah. Which
I suppose is to be expected from the director of The Exorcist.
And is it true that the old movie it was based on is like a Looney Tunes cartoon, and every time the dynamite explodes, the characters all get covered in like black ash and they have to wipe it away from their eyes, like, and their hair like falls off, like crumbles off in a dirt pile.
Exactly, where this is like you see their eyeballs fucking get blown to bits and horrible stuff like that.
Oh. So, thumbs up for the Sorcerer. Sorcerer, not the Sorcerer.
Sorcerer.
I've been watching White Lotus.
Oh.
Have you seen White Lotus, Luke?
No.
You got to watch White Lotus. I love White Lotus. We're on season 3 now. I've seen the first 2 episodes of season 3. Each season is a new cast with 1 or 2 recurring characters sometimes. And it's set in a posh hotel in a luxury resort in a different country each time. So season 1 was Hawaii, season 2 was Italy, season 3 is Thailand. Season 3 was going to be in Malaysia, but the White Lotus effect has become a thing where every place that's featured in White Lotus has an enormous tourism boom. So the country of Thailand paid the White Lotus people to relocate season 3 from
Thailand loves
Malaysia to Thailand. They love it.
Thailand love it.
And season 1 was sort of broadly about class. That was my favorite season. Season 2 was broadly about kind of sexuality, gender. Also great. Season 3 is sort of apparently going to be about spirituality and Buddhism and religion and that kind of thing.
Thailand is a Buddhist country. That makes sense.
Yeah. Each season starts with a death, but you don't know who is dead, and then you go back in time to see what has happened.
Is it like those old whodunit murder mysteries?
No, it's not at all.
Because those are always bad.
It is.
I hate those.
What happens is there's a death. Basically, they can be a bit slow getting started as you're basically introduced to a huge ensemble of characters staying at or working at the hotel. So they chuck a death in at the beginning to go, look, it's going to get exciting. And then as you're slowly being introduced to
backstory. I mean, it is tough with that, isn't it? To like make you care about multiple characters.
I would say that season 3 is maybe not hooking me quite as quickly as the earlier seasons did, but it's still really great. I'm really enjoying it. I'm particularly liking Jason Isaacs and Parker Posey as the patriarchs of a rich Texan family, and they are very funny, very good fun.
Do you
they
think
also
you're
have
not being
three.
gripped by it because you've seen the formula before? Is it if someone
No,
started in season 3, do you think they would think, "Wow, this is"?
I think I would have to
amazing.
go back and watch the beginnings of the previous seasons. I think they probably all start with quite a lot of, backstory and exposition and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing right now that's kind of super gripping me. It's possible that season 1 I saw kind of I like binged it, so I didn't have the kind of waiting week by week. It's not like Severance or something where there's immediately like a crazy mystery and you're begging to go back for more. But it's so well made, and the characters are so interesting and 3-dimensional and different, and it's actually, the exposition and the backstory is not clunky at all. It's done so well with really clever writing. It's brilliantly cast. It's like perfectly cast every time. They get really interesting group of actors. It's really smart and funny, and also does this thing. It totally like has its cake and eats it too, with its like criticism of a certain type of people while glorifying it at the same time. So the whole series is kind of about like saying, aren't posh rich white people bad? Aren't they going to these countries and taking advantage of them, and they don't care about the people who live there, and they're assholes and they're horrible to each other and they kill each other, and isn't capitalism bad? Blah 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 blah. All while we are at home with this like comfort viewing of these sexy rich white people in bikinis looking at them in their lives, and it's like, I don't know. I guess it's sort of maybe in a similar way to Succession or something like that, where it's criticizing these people, but it's much more directly. Succession is really like, these are all terrible people, and you need to remember that. This is definitely like, yeah, these are bad people, and rich white people are bad, and capitalism's bad, but we're still going to enjoy like watching them in these beautiful places with their tits out,
with their hot bods,
having sex and having cheeky like.
So there's a mixture of envy and sort of desire in there.
Yeah, I mean it's absolute like comfort food TV for me.
That's like a good. That is how people feel about rich people. No, a lot of the time.
Yeah,
there's like an element of like, I suppose it is envy, isn't it? You want to kind of be them, even if you find them repulsive. There's some part of you that's like, oh, that'd be pretty sick though.
Yeah. And then they always have a few characters who are like some Thai actors in this season who play like local workers and stuff, who get a small amount of storyline,
but not too much.
And they're usually like the nice, sympathetic ones that you like and are rooting for. But yeah, I don't really care about any of those issues really, because I just find it so much fun to watch. It's really smartly written, and I kind of can't imagine anyone not liking it. Like it's not sort of absolutely top tier stuff like Succession or maybe Severance, but I can easily see someone like getting turned off by those shows or feeling like they can't be bothered with them. Whereas White Lotus is just pure Happy Island, good time, fun time.
Hell yeah. That's Sam's review.
Lots of sexy people.
I like that. That is nice.
If you don't fancy anyone in White Lotus, you're sick. Also, they're clearly introducing an incest storyline with Arnold Schwarzenegger's son.
Nice.
I am here for it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, is he big and muscly?
He's big and muscly.
Yeah.
And he's got a weedy younger brother who's supposed to be really weedy and like pathetic. And I turned to my girlfriend and I was like, the weedy pathetic guy, that's like my ideal body type. I'm trying to get to who in this is supposed to be like embarrassingly weedy and pathetic.
That's always like a horrible. It's like Ugly Betty, where she's actually just super fit the whole way through, and you're like, oh, I can't even relate to her. She's unattainable.
Yeah, all of us deluded at watching at home, being like, I'm glad I'm not as Ugly Betty.
Yeah,
when she's clearly just put some braces on someone way more attractive. That's White Lotus. I've not seen enough of season 3 to know how it's going to live up to season the previous seasons, but I'm having a lovely time.
I gotta say, I'm impressed with anything. Not that I've seen it, but like I'm impressed with anything that does manage to get across a large cast's backstory.
Yeah,
I think that's such an impressive writing feat.
There's like
it's such a tricky one to. Balance. It's like I've seen a lot of movies where, particularly with like murder sort of things, where it's like you kind of need to know about all the different characters. So there's like who could have done it, and like really care about them. And it's such a slog and complicated puzzle to.
It's done so well. So it's not like someone's murdered and you have to figure out who the murderer is. It's like someone is going to get murdered at the end of the season, and it's not going to be like a secret as who's done it. It's just going to be like a murder that you're going to see at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
But there's so for example, one group of characters in this season is like 3 kind of middle-aged women who clearly like were best friends, but like haven't seen as much of each other recently. And there's a lot of them doing this classic kind of like catty sort of backhanded chat, and the two of them talking about the other one when one of them's out the room. And it's so realistically done, and it's such like a joy to listen to the dialogue. It's such sort of fun, smart, cutting dialogue, and yet you're learning so much from it. So like one of them's really famous. One of them is like is sort of supposed to be a bit more like run down, and apparently has like a bit of a drinking problem. But it's all done with like little glances and little tiny comments, and it's none of you know what I was saying I liked in the Monkey movie last week, where they were like, "Oh, look, it's Babysitter Annie," where they do the like they were like self-awarely doing the clunky thing. It's really good at not. It doesn't feel clunky at all. Mike White, who makes it, is just clearly a very smart guy.
Go Mike White.
Yeah. He was in the reality show Survivor in America.
Oh.
One season, and apparently gets some people on his Survivor team to be extras in his TV shows he makes.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
That's White Lotus. Anything else you've seen, Luke?
I also watched I watched another 70s movie. I watched Dawn of the Dead.
Nice.
1970 something.
So this is George A. Romero.
Yeah. There's women in this.
There's women in
Sorry,
this.
there's a woman in it.
There's a woman in this.
There's a woman in it.
Some women zombies.
Lots of women zombies.
Lots of women zombies. So the first sort of zombie movie, George A. Romero movie, is Night of the Living Dead, which is
think
like 50s or 60s, something like that.
It's
old black and white movie.
Yeah.
And Dawn of the Dead
They're
is
coming to get you, Barbara.
What's that? Is that from Dawn of the Dead?
No, it's from the first
That's
one.
from the first one. Oh, okay. I've not seen it.
Which is hilarious.
I'm coming to... What, do the zombies talk?
No. Just this creepy guy.
Oh, okay.
Is,
God, you've got fucking zombies. Don't need a creepy guy as well.
Yeah.
And then Dawn of the Dead, was this like his first like big hit? Was this like a bigger budget project for him, or...
I actually don't know. I don't know the history of it. I just know that this one's like much more satirical. And it kind of works on like a few different levels, so it's sort of really elevating the horror to a satire as well. You can enjoy it on that
and we're all zombies really, and we're all that kind of thing.
What's so fun about the premise is basically it's all set in a mall,
right?
So the whole world is falling apart. And the first scene is like very realistic, and it's all shot in this newsroom. And it's like such a quick start, this movie, which I really loved. Like it's immediately like zombies are everywhere, the world's falling apart. You're in this newsroom, like everyone's doing their job, and they're slowly working out that the actual world is collapsing, and they're all just slowly leaving the newsroom to either go and loot or like save themselves. And it's really interesting who sort of stays committed to their job, who's like, fuck this. And like you watch the hierarchy just collapse and chaos sort of slowly ensue. And that's sort of done in this really like, realistic, quite sort of like, gritty and real. And then later in the movie, as the survivors like trying to find somewhere to go, they decide that the mall is the best place to be because it's got everything you need. And then the sort of
not much fresh food in the mall.
No, but lots of survival
but lots of clothes.
But it's also because it's like a big American mall. It's got guns. It's got like survival kits. It's got rations. It's got everything. And then what's really funny is all the zombies want to go to the mall as well. And the whole movie, they're like, why are the zombies coming to the mall? And they're like, it must just be some instinct from their past lives. And just more and more zombies keep coming to the mall. Not to eat them. They're just like, we better go to the mall.
Okay,
okay. Just in their subconscious somewhere.
Right.
And then they use that as a lot of like, sort of digs at like consumer culture and stuff, but it's not done in this
very good satire of the mall
and
going to the mall.
But this also like, it's the 70s, do you know what I mean? It's like so it's quite, as far as I'm concerned, it's quite
I'd love to go to a
time.
70s American mall.
But then it's also got, it works as a zombie movie as well. It's just got
scary.
It's not scary. It's really gross and uncomfortable, and the effects are
good practical effects.
Well, but they're so weird. There's something about 70s movies in general I find, because everything's like really grainy and nasty, and the sound is quite like upsetting and like distorted. It's the same thing I have with Evil Dead, where it's like it feels more real than something made in the 2000s.
Okay, I think my favorite example of that is probably the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so... I mean, it's not like found footage, but it feels like found footage because of how... it feels like it's made on like a rusty old camcorder.
And it's got such a dirty feel to it.
Yeah.
And then it's like... And then you watch something in the, the 90s or the 2000s. The 2000s particularly feels so clean.
Yeah.
That everything looks fake.
Yeah.
Whereas even though you're like... Sometimes you can clearly tell, you're like, oh, I know how they made that effect. It's quite obvious, but it still gets this visceral feeling of like, oh, but it really does look like he's just taken a full bite out of her face. And there's like, there's some horrible scenes that just like stick in your mind, where it's just a zombie fully taking a chunk out of someone. And there's so much blood, and the blood's like bright pink almost. It looks ridiculous, but it just looks so much more real, or like it's so much more evocative for some reason. And it's also good because the characters in this are like actually pretty smart.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of zombie
I feel like
movies,
that's one of the number one problems with so many horror movies.
Yeah.
Is characters making decisions that you feel like you would not make.
Yeah.
And then you just lose. You're taken out of it entirely.
Well, I think it's so good as well because the characters do make mistakes and they like pay for it, but it feels so much more believable than your average, your average movie where you're just like, well, this guy's just a thick caricature of whatever. Whereas the survivors in this are immediately like, let's get to safety, let's do this, let's shore up the place immediately. And it's really cool because there's two sort of like soldiers who've abandoned the army basically, and they're really like on it. But they're also, one of them's a thrill seeker, adrenaline junkie, which makes sense. But you never have the sense that he's a caricature of a person. He feels like quite complex,
right?
But his adrenaline seeking does get the better of him in the end, and then that's sort of the cascading sort of like that enables the chaos to take over later in the movie. But it's great. There's also like there's kind of like a critique of like American society being really racist as well, when it's like everything's collapsing and they go to storm. This is like one of the opening scenes where you see the soldiers abandoning the army. And they go to storm like a project town that's been taken over by some sort of terrorist. But whilst this zombie infection is still going on.
Yeah.
And there's just this police officer who goes completely insane and just starts shooting everyone because he hates immigrants. It's like the most on-the-nose, ridiculous sort of like parody of like a racist man who's got a gun. And he's literally... But it's so disturbing because he literally just bursts into rooms and just shoots someone in the head. Their whole head explodes, is in front of the whole family. And so he's not shooting zombies.
Okay, yeah, people, not zombies.
Yeah, but he's treating them like they're monsters. And because it's the end of the world, you sort of get the feeling that he's behaving like this because he knows it's the end of the world.
Can get away with it.
Finally, I can do what I want to do. And it's actually really disturbing.
Yeah.
Like, this is so horrible.
Maybe you should check out some more zombie movies in advance of 28 Years Later, which is coming out later this year.
Yeah.
Which I'm quite excited about because
I think the 28 series is
the 28 series of movies are really good.
Yeah, I felt bad for the Weeks Later one because it got panned.
Yeah, it got really
panned. It's pretty good. I saw it recently. It's not a bad movie.
Yeah.
And that's one they all make smart decisions.
And then we can get a top 3 zombie movies from Luke.
Yum, yum.
You have to watch all of them.
Oh god,
every single
a lot
one.
of bad movies.
Yeah. You can skip the bad ones. It's going from one disturbing movie to another. I saw a movie this week called Fresh.
Oh,
Which is a 2022 horror movie starring Daisy Edgar Jones and Sebastian Stan.
we love horror movies.
We love horror movies. Sebastian Stan, of course, Daisy Edgar Jones is from Normal People. Sebastian Stan was in The Apprentice, playing Donald Trump, and was in A Different Man. He was in, and he's great, Sebastian Stan.
In this, he's the same man.
In this, he's
The actor, Sebastian.
Yeah, he's the same man as he
Yes.
is in A Different Man. No, he's a different man to that. He's a different character, but the same actor.
Okay.
Fresh is a horror movie ostensibly about the horrors of dating apps.
Oh, very topical.
And very topical for Luke, who was swiping on Field 5 minutes before
Why would you bring
the
that
podcast.
up?
Sorry, is that private information?
No.
He's on there to find a wife.
Yeah, but this is when I'm going to find out the movie tells me that I am the scary thing on the dating apps.
Well, I mean, you are because you're the man.
So
I'm going to give away some of the premise for Fresh. I would say it's a good horror movie. I would recommend it. I think it, as with loads of horror movies, it loses its way in the third act. And I think it is quite sort of disturbing and quite horrible. It's not really gory, and it's quite sort of silly, but the silliness is kind of contrasting a very dark plot. So yeah, if you don't like your horror movies dark, I would avoid it. But yeah, I'm going to give away the kind of basic premise of it. So skip forward 2 minutes if you don't want to hear this. Basically, Sebastian Stan is a lovely guy who meets Daisy Edgar Jones on a dating app. They have a lovely old time. He takes her away for a weekend to a cabin in the woods with no signal. Well, not really a cabin. It's a huge, beautiful house.
how's he going to do swiping if there's no signal?
He immediately drugs her, ties her up, and reveals that he is a cannibal who ties up women in his house and slowly cuts their body parts off to butcher them and sell meat to high-paying clients around the world. This is why
you've got to read the interests section on your dating app profiles.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. It's like reading terms and conditions. You got to check what they're into before you decide to go away with them.
And it is I've realized, surprisingly, I've not really seen a movie like that where a woman goes on. You hear so many stories about women going on dates with like horrible guys, and thinking about like this guy could be a serial killer or whatever. Not really, actually. I can't think of many movies where that happens.
Yeah,
and certainly not in the like new world of dating apps.
Yeah, because you think it's like prime for a bit of a
And this movie is written and directed by women, so it's definitely coming from a sort of feminist perspective.
We won't give them names.
It's written and directed. It's written by Mimi Cave, and it's directed by Mimi Cave, written by Lauren something Hill. That's probably wrong. I've forgotten their names.
Let's just say William Friedkin.
Yeah, William Friedkin. It is very horrible, sort of seeing her get tied up in this situation that feels like it is. There's sort of no hope, and then gets even more horrible when she realizes she's going to slowly get like her leg amputated and her bum cut off and things like that for him to eat. And there's sort of scenes of cannibalism, and it's so grotesque.
Is it
really
a bit
disgusting.
torture porny?
Not really, because you're not seeing them going and getting their legs cut off. It's kind of, but you see sort of like legs in a freezer and that kind of thing.
Okay.
I would say, it's
intense
sort of,
horror
it's
thriller.
mostly talked about as like a warning against dating apps and the horrors of that kind of thing. And you know, it's basically like realizing every woman's worst fear and turning that into a horror. I guess it's sort of, I've heard it described as like Get Out for white women, right? Which it kind of is.
But it's not funny.
nearly as good as Get Out. It is are some comedy elements, definitely. It is listed as a horror comedy, but I would say mostly it's quite horrible. And I think what it actually worked best as for me was as anti-meat eating, like satire. But I couldn't actually find anything out about if the like writers are vegetarian or if that's how they wanted to look at it. But what I found, I think, most disturbing about it is Sebastian Stan, the kind of serial killer guy. He treats the women really well that he has locked up, and it's like, I want to like make you nice food, and I don't, I'm not a bad guy. I'm just like doing this thing that I need to do.
Does it make you think of sort of like free range organic farms? Where like...
And somehow that makes it so much creepier and so much worse. It's like, just kill this woman, but no, it's like, I want to treat you well, and he like wants to think of himself as a good guy, and that is so horrifying to me. And it made me think so much of, I do eat meat, of like the meat industry, and like you're saying, like free range meat, and like, we look after these animals before we like butcher them and kill them. And it was just so unimaginably grim watching this and kind of imagining this situation. And yet it was such a clear parallel to this industry that I partake in.
That's interesting.
So often.
But you don't think that was necessarily an intention of the movie? That was...
I don't know. I tried to do a small amount of research, but I didn't actually. I haven't watched any interviews with the creators, so it could be. But most of the news around it is about them talking about it more from the sort of feminist perspective of what it's like dating for women, and that kind of being what the movie is about. And the cannibalism aspect felt just initially like it was like, what's the worst thing? The worst thing might be that you're like raped and killed, but what's like sort of even more like horrific horror movie thing? Oh, what if it's a cannibal who's going to slowly butcher you while you're alive? And so very horrible, very creepy movie. I watched it with my girlfriend. She really liked it. I was more critical. I don't think it was a must watch, and I found it quite yucky. But if you're looking for a kind of a hidden gem, perhaps you might really enjoy it. If you're a horror fan, I wouldn't recommend it to my mum. This week we saw The Last Showgirl, which Luke was absolutely buzzing to see. He couldn't wait. Last Showgirl is a new movie by Gia Coppola, one of the Coppola family.
Yes.
Which is, Francis Ford Coppola, Jason Schwartzman, Nicolas Cage, all of these, Sophia Coppola.
Is Francis Ford the patriarch?
He's the granddaddy.
He's the
Marlon Brando. He's the, you come to me on the day of my granddaughter's film that she'd made. I've not seen The Godfather. I don't know. Is Gia his granddaughter? I'm going to guess so.
Yeah, she's 39, I think, or 38.
She's 39.
I imagine she is his granddaughter.
It's starring Pamela Anderson as an aging showgirl who's been part of a Las Vegas kind of cabaret burlesque showgirl act for, it sounds like 30 years. 40 years.
Yeah.
And it's the last one going in Vegas, and she finds out that it's going to be shut down because it's not popular anymore. People don't want to see it. And it's about her coming to terms with the life she's chosen and what it means to be a part of something that is not going to exist anymore, and dedicating your life to something that is shutting down and coming to terms with the decisions you've made in your life and what you've committed to in your life. Yeah.
It's a nice synopsis.
That's my synopsis.
Yeah, pretty good.
Well, what did you think of The Last Showgirl, Luke?
Well, look, this might surprise you, considering what a misogynist bastard you've painted me out to be. I thought this was excellent. I loved it.
Really?
I really, really enjoyed it, yeah. I thought it was very subtle. The character of Shelley, the main character, I felt like you got such a strong sense of who she was by the end of it.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that it felt like very small in the sense that it's not that much happens in it. It's not really like a big story with a big arc. It's more like
it's definitely a character study.
Yeah, but I thought that aspect of it was really, really well done. I thought a lot of the dialogue was very well wielded in the sense that you got such a sense of who she was without making her completely ridiculous. Or I felt like she's a complex character, and they actually nailed her with subtlety. And
so she's sort of, I would say, a bit kind of Arrested Development in the actual the actual meaning of the term, not the TV show.
Okay, yes.
Like she talks in. She's got a very high-pitched, almost sort of babyish voice.
Yeah.
And she, I don't think, really takes the world very seriously and takes things very seriously, and is very naive.
She's a little girl.
Yeah, she's like a little girl in a whatever 60-year-old woman's body. And yeah, it would, quite easily could have been just totally unlikable and annoying or unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it feels very grounded, and
Well, I think she starts off initially very charming, and you're like, oh, she's great, she's really sweet. It's also Pam, so everyone's like, yeah, Pamela, cool. Not that I've actually seen her in anything, but she is like, I've only seen her in Borat. But she is charming. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's really nice. And then as the film develops, you see the uglier sides of her personality, and they sort of get pieced together, and you sort of piece together what she's been like in her younger life. It's not really thrown in your face in this really dramatic sort of way, but it's really implied, and in a way that to me was really evocative, because I was like, I feel like I've got such a strong sense of what you were like as a mother, as a partner, as all these things, and it's really interesting watching someone then grapple with all of that stuff coming to a head in your later years, and you're like, which is kind of a horror in a sense of like, fuck, what a time in your life to have an existential crisis at 60 is
really
tough.
I don't know, I know people who have like or people who have like got divorced at 60 or older, and have sort of like come to regret huge life choices late in life,
and you're like,
and
is it too late to
that is so painful, right? Like, I'm 30, and I'm coming to terms with choices I made in my 20s or whatever, but it still feels like, well, I've got my 30s, and
I could retrain, like,
there's something really the sort of deathbed regrets are not that she's on her deathbed,
but you're actually contemplating it at that age. That's what's so different, is like in your 60s is like, you might have a few friends who've died. Yeah. You might and you are starting to think, what if I lose capacity over the next 15, 20 years? it just suddenly feels very real, that stuff. And I also like the fact that, like, because obviously there's so much messaging of like, they value young people way more than they value old people, and old people sort of like chucked out. But it didn't feel gratuitous in that sort of like shoving it down your throat. It's just sort of, you just see it and you're like, yeah, I know that's happening. And there's all these great scenes where they just like, where they send Jamie Lee Curtis's character home, and they don't say why, but it's just, you just see the two younger barmaids in the background, and you're like, all right, we all know why.
Jamie Lee Curtis is in the movie, and she plays Pamela Anderson's friend, who used to be in the Showgirl show, and now she's a sort of aging, smoking, drinking Vegas like barmaid on the casino floor, and she's fantastic.
She's so good. Yeah, she's like still walking around with her massive cleavage.
Huge, I mean, there's some like. I don't even know how to say this really, but there's like scenes where she's like in like tights and a bra, and she's like got the most sort of like, I don't know, they've clearly like positioned, they make her body look mad. Like
massive giant
I don't know, like it was one thing Demi Moore like pinching her folds in The Substance, but there was something wild about this incredibly confident Jamie Lee Curtis strutting around in this like
bodysuit,
this
squashes
bizarre
everything
bodysuit, moving all her parts around and just totally shamelessly. And I thought that was her character was very funny. Really,
the scene of her dancing on her own on the stage with no one.
Oh, amazing! Yeah,
it is my favorite bit of the movie. I thought it was such a good, like, Yeah, it was just such a good scene, and it's kind of poignant, and it's kind of also liberating, but it's also sad at the same time. Like, there's so many emotions going into it, which I think is why I like the movie so much. Is that with scenes like that, because it almost does so much more with less, because it's like it just lets you ponder what's going on a little bit rather than really slamming too much down your throat.
Yeah.
But it does make you think all those things.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's a very existential movie. And also it made me think, really, because like obviously me and you are stand-ups or whatever, there was a few scenes where it's like, oh my God, is this our future? Like,
yeah, it was really hard not to draw parallels to this thing where, you know, she like loves this I don't even know what you call the show, a review or whatever it is.
Yeah.
She loves the show. It's called Le Razzle Dazzle that she's been in for 40 years. And she thinks it's the height of art, and she thinks it's amazing. She's truly like dedicated her life to it and put everything else aside.
And it's just so outdated and
it just like doesn't mean anything to anyone. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And she's just trying to hang on to this like dying thing, this like captain going down with the ship, and it's so painful and hard to see, and
it's so good,
definitely scene. As a stand-up, when you're stand-up, I mean, I think with the world moving so fast, so many like art forms and feel, or even just the idea of being an artist feels like this kind of insane, outdated thing that like, is it even possible to be?
Well, I mean, stand-up particularly is like, how many people are watching live stand-up? How many people are also watching an hour comedy special the whole way through? It's like, it's all clips and internet stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you think about what big a thing like Live at the Apollo was versus what it used to be, and you know, it's not, you know, stand-up's still doing relatively well in these new places, but I don't know, the kind of it definitely, stand-up used to have this kind of exciting allure, showmanship thing to it, whereas now it's all people talking on podcasts and just like getting your own fan base and whatever. It definitely, I don't know, there were huge parallels. It's very hard not to watch it and go,
yeah, and oh my God, yeah, there were so many bits where I was like,
is this me?
God,
could this
am
be
I
me?
Shelley?
Yeah.
Am I gonna be Shelley? Just
before you go off on your stand-up cruise you're going on in a few weeks.
Yeah, which is even worse. I mean, that's the height of like, could this be more outdated?
That's like the sort of thing that you would imagine she would end up doing at the end of this movie, right?
You know what was so bad was, before I watched this, the day before, I'd gone to do a gig in Skegness, Butlins, which again is like, even that, I got booed off stage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which, I mean, look, I'm not right for that audience at all.
I think it was,
but I've been booed off one other time in my stand-up career. Guess where that happened?
Was that at my gig?
Also Skegness. I've been booed off stage twice in Skegness, and I mean, fuck Skegness. It's the worst place in the world.
Why did they boo you off? You didn't. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, so the first. Well, no, it's like the first time.
Were you doing all your gay sex material? Yes.
But you know what was so funny was the act. So that was the first time I got booed off, and the MC. The MCs actually did this on both shows, where they went out and they said like,
"We're so sorry. We do not condone homosexuality here at Butlins Skegness."
It wasn't even that. They went out and they're like, remember guys, funny is funny. If you're offended by something, you know, it's just a joke. Fuck woke. All this sort of stuff. They did that. I went out and was like, I think straight guys should try gay sex. They're like, boo! No! Outrageous! So offensive! Disgusting! And I was like, what? But then what was even more perverse was I got booed off. I left, and then the compere came on. So I didn't do any gay sex this time, because I was like, all right, they're not going to go.
You didn't have sex with any men this time?
No, I didn't. But I just went off and did the material that I was like, this is maybe what they'll get on board for, and they booed me off again.
They didn't like your straight sex material?
No. And then
what is there left?
The compere this time came out and was like, come on guys, you know, look, comedy is subjective, like we can all, you know, whatever, some people like it, you didn't like it today, so let's give Luke Chilton a round of applause. They just booed me off, and then they gave me a round of applause. I was like, you fucking cunts. What is wrong with you? But Skegness sucks. I don't give a shit. I'm never going back there. This is like the center of Reform UK. I'm like,
really?
Obviously, I'm not going to go down well as like some liberal cunt from the central city that is pro-immigration.
How much did you get paid?
I got £250.
£250.
But the fucking train was 80 quid, so and my agent fee, so I probably got 100 quid at the end of it.
And the M&S meal deal you bought on the way home.
Yeah, let's not think about it. So I was already in a very existential mode, and then I was thinking, is this what this goddamn cruise is going to be like as well?
So you went to the movie and you were like, Je suis the last showgirl. Je suis le razzle dazzle.
Yeah, and also it was all the bits with maybe this is spoilers talking about with her daughter.
I'll get into that in spoilers.
Yeah.
Can I say what I thought about the film,
go on.
and then we'll do spoilers.
Yeah.
I liked the film. I did not like it as much as you. I don't disagree with the things you said. I thought it was really well done. The performances are amazing. Pamela Anderson is great.
Yeah.
It's amazing just sort of looking at her and like, she plays this. It's this amazing sort of weird, naive performance, and in like some scenes she looks like the most glamorous, beautiful person you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And in some scenes she looks like your mate's mum. She just looks like a normal person. Really amazing to, I don't know, see someone like that who doesn't look like they've had tons and tons of work done and just looks like a real normal aging human being, and yet still totally beautiful. And it's kind of this weird contradiction in Hollywood at the moment where there's these movies being made about like, you know, don't worry about beauty standards and just be who you want to be, and yet like Botox and Ozempic and all of these things are like at an all-time high. And it's this such a weird kind of contrast.
Honora wins all the awards where it's got the fittest, hottest, youngest women.
Well, Honora is at least like young women that like not people who are 60 but have had so much plastic surgery. Anyway, just weird. The kind of like Hollywood's like,
as
you know, we love the substance and I mean, Pamela Anderson probably has had stuff done, but she doesn't look like fucking Nicole Kidman in Baby Girl or something like that, right? Anyway, I shouldn't be commenting on.
I think she definitely had a boob job, but I think that's back in the day.
Oh yeah, almost certainly. But anyway. That's all I have to say is Pamela Anderson. That's my only opinion about the film. I really liked the movie. There were a few moments I had problems with. There was a kind of dramatic scene where someone's not very nice to Pamela Anderson's character that I thought was like too over the top, and a few moments that lost me like that. And I think overall, it felt like it didn't really wrap up in a super satisfying way. Or not that it didn't wrap up. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I want to know more about what happens to the character. It was more just like, yes, it's sad to see someone who's like dedicated their life to this thing and it's sort of amounted to nothing. But other than that being like a depressing fact, I didn't know what to take away from the movie or what I should learn from it.
It ends very abruptly on the...
It ends quite abruptly.
When the credit came up, I was like, okay, we're done. Yeah.
And I actually, and you know, I'm obsessed with movies being short. I actually thought the film would have benefited from being longer and from digging more into it. I think it's really well shot. It's got this kind of weird, kind of blurry filter on a lot of it. Kind of gives this sort of dreamlike feel to it, and also like a sense of like maybe things are decaying subtly on the sides, like just peripheral. It's almost like you've got bad vision. Yes, exactly. And it's got some great music. It's cut one scene. It's sort of almost like horror movie music. Another scene's got this great orchestral music. It reminded me a bit of like Punch Drunk Love. And really believable characters, but it kind of I don't know, almost maybe felt more like a short film. And it was just like a little glimpse into this person's life, and I kind of wished there was like it gave me a bit more. It's hard to put my finger on exactly, but it didn't. Is that you sort of didn't feel like a complete? There wasn't really growth. Or or change or like an arc or a resolution particularly.
Yeah.
It just felt like this moment in someone's life, and it was evocative and powerful to see, but I came out slightly unsatisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I certainly felt.
You don't have to agree with me.
No, but I think it's like it does evoke that emotion. But for me, that was like a part of it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, this is the feeling of like existential dread.
Yes,
and it just leaves you with that, and it is sort of like the. We should go into spoilers now because I want to talk about the final scene.
Yeah. So we enjoyed the movie. We'll jump into some spoilers quickly now.
Yeah, because the final scene when you actually see the show she does, and the show is just crap.
Right. I mean, you see like a brief
but it's like
thing of it. Yeah.
There's not really. It's just
they're just like
fancy clothes,
half naked, kind of shaking around. Yeah,
and it's just kind of it's a bit sad.
Yes.
And then it ends on that, and it's like you sort of wonder. I was wondering if it was going to end in like, let's make the show look great. So it's from her perspective.
Yeah.
She sees it as this incredible thing. It ends on this like big high, but there's this undercurrent of
yeah
and it ends like that, a bit like, did you ever see that movie, I can't remember the name of the movie, where they try and drink all the alcohol, they keep their blood level alcohol at like 0.4 because apparently that makes your life great.
Yeah,
the big dance scene at the end.
Yeah, the Thomas Vinterberg film, Another Round.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and you know the way that ends with that, like he does this dramatic dance at the end, and it's sort of like in his head, it's like the greatest thing ever. And he's like, "All the students think I'm so cool," but when you're actually watching it, you're like, "He's crap." Like this is not. This is sad. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, this is a discussion for another day, but I think the dance at the end of Another Round is glorious.
Yeah, but
and anyway, we can't. I don't have time to go into that.
It reminded me of that scene in the sense that it's got this dual. You can kind of see it in both.
Okay,
do you know what I mean? But like the context is also like, oh, it's either an alcoholic who's really sad and he's just on a high right now, and the same with this, where it's like, okay, but she gets this one final show that she really loves. But this film didn't really feel like it gave her that. It was just like, here's the show.
Yeah,
it's kind of bad. It's fine. It's like so mediocre that you're like, it's almost more disturbing because you're like,
yeah. And
this is what
I was reading about it, and
to.
it's very based on like real shows, Showgirl shows that were huge and now have mostly shut down. And a lot of the costumes used in the movie were from the actual Vegas Showgirl shows that have been shut down. But I agree with all of that. The scene I was alluding to earlier that kind of took me out of it a bit was when I'll get onto that in a minute. So there's this amazing scene in the movie where she's talking to this younger woman in her house who comes over, and the whole time you're like, is that her daughter? And then her daughter keeps calling her Shelley, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's not her daughter because she's calling her Shelley.
Yeah.
But then it's like they're talking, it's like, it sounds sort of like, but we've not heard about her daughter. What is this? And then at the very end, she's like, are you going to give your mum a hug?
Yeah.
And it's just clear that, oh, no, she's just calling her Shelley because she's been a shit mum and she doesn't call her mum. And you realise halfway through the movie at that point that she has basically been a terrible mother to dedicate her life to this shit thing. And again, this is another thing that makes you think about in stand-up. Like you see so many comedians and whatever who are like will not give time to their family or their girlfriends and their partners and stuff because they're like
so many people. It's so disturbing. That whole scene was like so disturbing to me, and I was just like, oh my god. And it's like, I'm just picturing all the comics who are like, oh yeah, I've just like traveled across the country to work on my cum joke, and you're like, just hang out with your daughter. Like, what are you doing?
And when she sort of like questioned about it and people are like, have you been a bad mum? She's like, oh yeah, I did everything I could. And this is other thing that
it feels like
I know a lot of mums have done where it's like this denial of the issues they've caused, and just like, oh, everyone blames me for everything, and
Yeah.
can't really take responsibility for it. And it was hard and painful to see as well.
There's also such a amazing contrast there of her daughter is so grounded and just says stuff as it is.
Yeah.
And then Shelley is just
she's
like,
in this dream
oh,
world.
But, it's show business. It's razzle dazzle,
Yeah.
honey. Like,
She's
in
this depressing house watching old clips of like old ballet things and dancing in her living room. And it's very sad.
It's really
see.
bleak. Yeah. But it's also not like it doesn't hit you over the head with a hammer. It's just sort of like it's like it's
she's not injecting heroin.
No,
it's just this sort of quiet,
disappointed
bleakness. Yeah.
daughter. And the dialogue feels very real in those conversations. I mean, I've had conversations like that with like my own dad. You know what I mean? That are like, and it's just so unfulfilling and like difficult and it's just like disappointing, and it's just so clear like her mum is just in a child role and she puts her daughter in an adult role, and you're like, this is so unfair to do to your own child. It's I thought those scenes were like so good.
So the scene that pulled me out of it a bit was when the daughter came to see the mum do a show, and then in the dressing room she was like, what was that? That was shit. You gave your whole life up for that. And I do get it. I do get that like you might be like extra heartbroken if you saw the thing your mum had given up her life for and like been a terrible mum for, and it was terrible thing. But I don't know, just like the brutality, like even though it's like a load of shit, it means so much to her. And I was trying to imagine like, coming off stage, like a comedian coming off stage and me going, that was shit. You've given up your life for that? Like, even though she'd been such a terrible mum to this daughter and the daughter was entirely in the right, I couldn't get on board with the cruelty of what the daughter was saying in that moment.
You're like, leave Shelley alone.
It was just like, yeah, she has been a terrible mum and she's made terrible decisions and this is all, but like to go and it was all for fucking nothing and you've wasted your time and you've ruined my life. And it just was like, all she has is the dream world of the show. All she has is her belief that the show isn't a load of shit. And if you take that away from her, she suddenly has nothing at all. Yeah. And I found that so unbelievably cruel that I was like taken out of do you think movie somehow. But I don't know, really maybe it was just like too painful to see.
I didn't have that experience with it because from my perspective, it was like, this might be what a 23-year-old who's really angry would do.
Yeah. I mean, talking about it now, it doesn't sound unbelievable, but it just didn't. It felt too dramatic to me.
It was the most melodramatic moment in the movie.
Yeah,
I would say, and like also for a movie that is majority pretty subtle, maybe.
Yeah,
it's like it feels discordant in that way, maybe because it's a little bit like, I don't know how often people actually have those confrontations in such a upfront way, especially in that kind of relationship, because it's just so, if they've never discussed that before, it's like, oh, why is this coming out at this point in your life, maybe? But no, I thought it, there are a few like actual just I thought like the Shelley as well, there was such a beautiful like portrayal of like, I guess kind of narcissism and naivety, but it's all kind of sympathetic at the same time.
Yeah,
because you are.
She is overall very likable,
and she doesn't feel manipulative. She doesn't feel like she's someone working from a, with sort of narcissistic characters. They can be like, they're evil manipulators and they're really smart, whereas she feels sort of naive. She's just
got tunnel vision and she lives in her own little world.
Yeah, and but I thought there was some amazing sort of moments in the script that sort of really emphasized her like cognitive dissonance with everything, like the scene where she goes to meet with Eddie or Dave Bautista.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring him up as the last point I had, is that Dave Bautista is the manager of the show, and I think he's really fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive sucker for a kind of gentle giant role, and he's this very scary looking guy in these big flame t-shirts, and he talks so gently in the movie, and
There's also something so great that Dave Bautista
I found him
specifically-
really sweet. Yeah.
Also, because he used to be a huge WWE
Of course.
star, and Pamela Anderson used to be this huge Baywatch star or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all like aging starlets,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like art mirroring itself in the same time. It works on this meta
Yeah.
level.
I don't know if him being the dad of the daughter was like I don't know if that added much to the plot to me.
I thought it added
but-
to his character because it sort of shows how passive he's been in the sense that there's that scene where he's sort of like, he's never met her, and then he just comes across as quite a sort of like maybe cowardly and passive and sort of never really went for anything. And the fact that he is the only person in the movie who really glorifies Shelley. He thinks Shelley is amazing. Which sort of actually speaks to how small his life is. There's, I don't know. I felt like it sort of added to his character, but I don't think it sort of added anything extra to his relationship with Shelley, particularly, or I'm not sure. But I didn't mind it. I thought there was like some really, but that scene where they have dinner together to sort of try and maybe
and suddenly you're like, whoa, Pamela Anderson's back.
Yeah.
She's got this sexy dress on. She's dressed up. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. But I thought
she still got it.
The script in that scene I just thought was so good, where it's like she's picking on specific words he's saying, deliberately misunderstanding him in this kind of provocative way that just sort of shows all of her insecurities coming out.
Even just the like, you look nice. Do I look nice?
Yeah. And it's so transparent, and but also like the scenes where she's defending herself as a mother, where she sort of is like, well, I don't know why you're. She says something along the lines of like, well, I don't know why you're even concerned. You were never there for her, and it's like, but you never were either, Shelley. And it's like Shelley talks to herself so much when she's talking to other people,
right?
Which I thought was so well done in the script, and also is the kind of thing that narcissistic characters do, is that you think you're having a chat with them, they just reflect to themselves what they know is kind of their problem, and then reflect on someone else. And it's I thought that was so well done.
She's totally self-centered, and there's that movie where one of her fellow cast members comes in like distress in tears at her door. She's like, I'm just going through so much, I just can't right now, I just can't. And it's like,
it's heartbreaking, it's so frustrating,
and it like, it just so self-centered, and
also the scene,
I don't know, I literally can't imagine being in any state. I feel like if I was like, my fucking leg was falling off, if someone knocked my door and was like, I need your help, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I'm fucked up right now, but fine.
Do you want to eat my leg?
Yeah.
Because and also it's so much is even more impactful in the scene they've shared before with each other, is like her being like, I'm your mummy, you're my daughter, we're a family, in that beginning scene.
What she's saying this to the cast member?
Yeah. Shelley is sort of being like, oh, I guess I'm sort of like,
oh, I'm like the mummy of the group,
and you're the daughter, and there's all this dynamic, and you're like, oh, it's so shallow. It's like absolutely nothing.
I'd totally forgotten that, but you're right. It's
and the
like,
character Jodie is so keen, obviously. But this is why I think I thought the film was so good in like creating such a world with so little dialogue. Like it does so much with the script, because it's like we get such an understanding of who Jodie is. As in this idea, she wants a surrogate mum because her parents are treating her like shit and like leaving her on the street. Yeah, she's latched onto Shelley. Shelley is completely vacuous. Yeah, can't handle it unless things are going positively. And I just thought it was such a good portrayal of like narcissism, neediness, abandonment, like all of these things were just really just scripted so well to me. It's like these characters are just, I feel like they just nailed that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the dialogue and the performances were really strong.
Because it's also maintaining that likability that I was like, that is the hardest thing I think to write, is that it's such a complex character. But
that audition scene was very painful. When she goes for an audition and she's basically just doing this really shit dance, and she's begging to be liked, and then this guy's like, you have no talent, you were hired when you used to be young and hot. And she just like can't believe that this person is being so blunt and just saying the truth to her. And it's like, I don't know, almost like it's a horrible thing he's saying. Yeah. But also like maybe she does need to hear it.
Yeah. Also, I love that was so built up, because there's so many points in the movie that could have been said. There's so many scenes where you're like, none of the characters actually say, well, oh, you're just old and past it, so fuck you, that's why. And you see so many scenes where that is happening, but no one actually expresses it. And then that scene is almost like this huge build up to that.
Yeah.
And I did love Pam's reaction where she's just like, oh, you want sexy?
Yeah. I can do sexy.
And then, and then you've got the other dancer who's a bit more pragmatic and ironically grown up, despite obviously being like 22 or something, is trying to comfort Shelley afterwards and trying to be nice to her. And Shelley just tells her to fuck off, basically. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this is so tragic.
Yes.
And sad. And like, it's just a small, bleak life. And also like that whole idea of like chasing celebrity and the razzle dazzle of fame. And it's just bullshit. Like,
especially we should wrap up as soon as we can, but there's something about like, again, I think comparing it to the stand-up world, there's this like I kind of get why some people are like, I want to be famous and I want to be number one and I want everyone to know my name, but there's this sort of like anonymity about this thing that she's chasing where she's like, I want this showbiz, live this showbiz exciting life. But even then, even when she is doing that, she's an anonymous face with her boobs out, like in front, like even at its peak, she's still not really living a true showbiz life or this true. It's just this kind of
there's no talent,
vacuous Vegas shadow of show business. This kind of hollow.
It's epitomized when she's trying to when she's criticizing Jodie, the younger dancer, for going for like a sexy show.
Yeah,
and Shelley struggles to argue why Razzle Dazzle is superior to.
It's from the French tradition, and it's like it's called Le Razzle Dazzle, as if it's like.
And you've got your tits out.
Yeah,
like you're like, why is this any different to, a strip show?
Yeah,
and it's I thought it was really good. It
Great. I'm glad you liked it. I know it's had some mixed response.
And it had a lot of women in it, which for me, as you said.
You were absolutely gagging for some women after that.
Look, if you hadn't told me Dave Bautista of WWE fame was in
it. Yeah, I told Luke it was a wrestling movie. Right on!
Okay, I think point out this is all ironic, and I love women. Women are great.
I mean, you've more times you say this in the episode, Luke, the more of an issue it seems like you have. Anyway, it's been lovely to see you all. We'll catch you next week for our review of whatever we're reviewing next week.
Yes, can't wait for that one.
Love.
Goodbye.
But goodbye.